Okay, this screencast is going to pick up with some other key inventions of the industrialization era. So, Thomas Edison is able to invent the light bulb. Christopher Sholes invents the typewriter, so kind of the predecessor to what you use to take notes on every day. And then most of you are probably familiar with Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone. Okay, we'll now kind of talk about the significance of railroads. We've mentioned railroad construction in Unit 3, but now we're going to talk about their overall importance. They really are the cheapest and most efficient form of travel, kind of beginning in this era. And as we're kind of moving to expand and settle west, it's very important to link the West to the rest of the U.S. through this type of transportation and relocation system. And so that is the importance of the railroad. So the government is really funding a lot of these railroad construction projects to kind of help aid in the expansion efforts of our country. One of the biggest railroad projects was the Transcontinental Railroad. Two railroad companies, the Union Pacific Company and the Central Pacific Company. These two railroads basically will start laying down railroad tracks from different ends of the country. So from west coast to east coast, moving towards the middle. And this is the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. The U.S. government actually funds this project. They will join the railroads together to kind of complete the Transcontinental Railroad at Promontory Point. That's Promontory Point, which is in Utah, in the 1860s, the end of the decade. They actually drive a golden spike or stake into the ground to mark its completion. So that completion is made at, and that kind of connection is made at Promontory Point, Utah. Time zones are created at this time to help actually, like the railroads and time zones are connected because with the railroad system in place, you had set times that the railroad would like leave, and the train would leave like certain cities to head to other cities. Every city had based their time off the position of the sun, with noon kind of being when the sun is directly overhead. So people who were traveling on the railroads were having to like set and reset their watches like several times during travel, just because even, you know, when you are like several cities apart, but you're not that far, but like you are a couple of towns over, where the exact time in which the sun is, you know, directly overhead, aka noon, is a little bit different. And that just makes things very complicated. So they kind of create the time zones, and, you know, we have the Pacific, the mountains, the Central time zone, the Eastern time zone, and everyone in a zone, they set the same exact time. So even if the sun's in a little bit different of a location from between, like, for example, us and Houston, maybe the sun's not quite directly overhead at noon, but noon is the same in both Baton Rouge and Houston, okay? And then that's why they shift it when there are, like, big gaps of space, okay? Then they change it because there's such a grade difference between those two zones. That's why, like, the Central and Pacific time are, like, 2 hours apart. They're, like, that far apart because their sun exposure is that much different, being so far away. So this kind of just, like, helps time be more regulated and it helps with the train system. Now, trains and railroads do have a large effect on cities. It will help to link previously isolated cities, towns, settlements, and it's going to promote trade and independence. Think about the significance of like the interstate system today, linking town to town, promoting trade and development. That's like what the railroad system did. And we're going to see like towns and communities grow and flourish off of the railway, off of the rail line, because it's an ideal place because of that access to transportation at the train tracks and at the railroad. Okay, we're going to pick up with Andrew Carnegie in class on Wednesday. Please watch this before that point and let me know if you have any questions. I hope you'll have a good weekend.